Dragon the Hedgehog 379, and welcome to a different kind of video. So today we're going to be talking about Kirby and his copy abilities. Now, these are really interesting, I've noticed, because almost all of them are better than the original ones that he copies. So let's take a quick look at the ones that he takes from other characters. Let's start with Mario first off. What can Mario do with his fireballs? Well, we know he can short hop auto cancel them, and they're really good for getting in, either forcing the opponent into shield and punishing with a grab, or they get hit with it, they're put into a little bit of hit stunning, and you just kind of punish off of that. Mario's really good at that. Now, what can Kirby do with his? Well, the same thing, but he also has a lot of midair jumps, so he can kind of just stall off stage for a while and throw out fireballs, which is really, really freaking useful when you think about it. Not to mention, I mean, you can also use that to stop Mario's fireballs, but most of the time you're not really going to be using fireballs. Maybe you can use it for a free grab, which Kirby down throw, yeah. Alright, moving on to the next character. We have Luigi. Now, Luigi's fireballs are decent, because, again, they can be short up auto-canceled and ledge-canceled and all that, and they're really good for just spacing and throwing out a bunch of hitboxes. Now, what can Kirby do? Well, Kirby kind of does the same thing, but he can also stall off stage with them fairly well. But yeah, Kirby doesn't do much different, but Kirby's fireballs are about the same. It's Peach. What do you want her special? Now, with Bowser, you have a few interesting things with this. Bowser's neutral special isn't the greatest in this game. I mean, it can be used decently. Now, Kirby can use them a lot better. With Bowser, it's just a strong projectile. You kind of throw, you get sent back, whatever. You know, there's not really much you're going to do with it. Maybe a throw combo? I don't really know what you do with Bowser's neutral beam. Now, with Kirby, on the other hand, when you're fighting Bowser, well, first off, Kirby, again, has more mid-air jumps, so Kirby can safely use this move off stage fairly well. And because it's Bowser, and Bowser's really predictable with his recovery, you can kind of just shut him out of recovering, and there's not much he's gonna be able to do about it. Now, when we look at Yoshi, Yoshi's neutral special is obviously the egg lay. Kirby's has more range than Yoshi's, so I mean, that's already undisputably better. You can just kind of sit off stage and Yoshi does not have the range of tongue that Kirby has, which I just find really, really ironic.
Wario.
Now, back in 0.9b, Kirby's charge-up punch was a lot more busted than DK's was, because Kirby had super armor no matter how much charge you had, whereas DK only had super armor on the full punch, I believe. In this version, it's not quite the same. Kirby doesn't always have super armor, which makes it not as good as it used to be in 0.9. But Kirby can use it out of throw combos. So at low percents, Kirby can go from a forward throw, or really I think at any percent, Kirby can go from a forward throw and then follow up with a neutral B, which is really just good for getting rid of DK, because DK can be a problem for Kirby if you're not careful. Now, you might see this as a reoccurring thing, as was with Mario, Luigi, and Bowser, but Link's neutral B is the arrows, and really anything that gives Kirby a projectile other than his up B landing, which is kind of an awkward projectile, but anything that gives Kirby a projectile really just does super-duper well with the guy. Link's arrows are no exception. In fact, they're probably one of the better ones that you can use. Because when Link's recovering, he really only has either hook shot, which you can punish, or if he does his up B, you can just snipe him off stage. And again, Kirby has a lot of jumps to use, so Kirby can just jump off stage and follow Link with arrows, and it's just a really solid projectile. Now, Zelda's neutral B, why do you want to copy this? So, the great thing about Pikachu's is, now when Pikachu uses it, it's just a little thing, it goes, and it kind of goes around ledges like, but with Kirby, it has a few more properties. First off, again, Kirby has multiple neutral airs, so Kirby can send off a few while he's jumping around off stage if he really needs to avoid the enemy and do some spacing to try to get back on stage. But another thing that Kirby can do with it is Kirby's jab blocks and Pikachu's doesn't. And jab blocking in this game is, with Kirby at least, horrifying. Why would you want to copy that? I mean, it's just really not useful. Now, Captain Falcon's neutral B is obviously the legendary Falcon Punch. Now, Captain Falcon's Falcon Punch is really powerful, but the problem with it is that's really slow, and it renders Falcon immobile when he uses it. Kirby, when he copies it, can actually slide around. If you do a short hop Falcon Punch and you land on the ground, Kirby can actually slide around quite a bit. So Kirby has movement and mix-ups with Falcon Punch. So for some reason, Kirby's Falcon Punch is way better than Captain Falcon's, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. I really don't understand why. Why would you want this new? It's not really that good. Now, when it comes to the Kirby Ditto, obviously, there's not much you can do with the whole inhale stuff, but there's some really interesting things. If your opponent is really just not prepared for it, you can kind of just inhale into inhale a lot until your opponent just kind of is at high percents and your suck doesn't do as good. But it's interesting, to say the least. Now, when we're talking about Meta Knight, Meta Knight is a huge problem for Kirby because of how fast and mobile he is in the air and how much priority he has. This matchup is usually seen as being really bad, but for some reason, when Kirby has Meta Knight's Meta Tornado, an interesting aspect that it has about it is that it sends Kirby flying. Like, when Meta Knight uses it on the ground, for example, he can't really move across the ground that much. But look at Kirby go! The man's like a race car. Now, when we talk about Bandanity, like I've said before with Link and all of them, when you give Kirby a projectile, it's just good. Bandanity's fully charged neutral B is just a great way for, like, it's a good thing for Kirby to charge while he's falling. But otherwise, it's just kind of, it's just a solid ranged move for Kirby to have, whether he's shooting out sparks or shooting out a ranged projectile to maybe edge guard or something. But it's a really solid one. It's not one of the greatest, but, you know, it works. When talking about Fox and Falco's lasers, even though they're completely different, they're essentially used for the same thing. You can rack up a lot of damage using Foxes, and Kirby can actually do more out of a short hop laser than Fox can. But it's just mainly used to rack up damage. You can get a lot more off of it. With Falco, I feel like Kirby gets a lot more off of a laser stun than Falco can because of his increased movement speed. Kirby can stun a Falco with his laser, and then go in for a grab. And getting a grab on Falco is, It's pretty good. Now, when we're talking about Marth's shield breaker, it's not the greatest for Kirby. I mean, it's a good mix-up for his recovery and, well, shield breaking power. But in general, you're not going to be using it a lot unless you really like to just mess with a Marth's head and just neutral be all over the place. But, I mean, that's really up to you, buddy. Now, when we're talking about Pit, like I've said a million times, you give Kirby a good projectile and he's just kind of set for the rest of the game. And you really don't need to do anything about it. I think I've made my point about projectiles by now. Yes! Why would you want this? Again, I think I made my point. Now, Isaac's neutral B is really interesting with Kirby. Now, Isaac's neutral B is the really long vine wrap, doodad. But using it can be really good because it can obviously get you Hammer. And Hammer is really strong. And if your opponent's really high in the air and you don't want to use an aerial thing, you can just use back air. I mean, really, it just gives you options to his two strongest moves just if you wrap them up. It's not really greater than Isaac's, but Kirby has two really quick kill moves off of it. Now, when we talk about Kirby's homing attack, it's really essentially the same as Sonic's. But, I mean, look at this great sprite animation. I mean, statistically, right? It has the long range that Sonic's has, which is, again, good for Kirby getting in range. It makes it a lot easier if your opponent's just running around a lot. It makes it a lot easier to get in on Sonic, since he's moving around so much. But, yeah, I mean, it's about the same as Sonic's, but, I think Kirby's just, it helps him get in a lot. And it helps with recovery a little bit. I mean, I've always argued that Sonic's homing attack is really more of a recovery move if you do it right, but I don't know, that's just me. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Kirby, when given a projectile, just does really good. There's really nothing else to say about that. Now, having Black Mage's stop power, I feel, really helps Kirby a lot because of, first off, Black Mage has the ability in this game to charge up stop and then save it by rolling, which I never understood why they did that, because it gives Kirby a lot of advantages. Kirby's charge is marginally faster, I believe, but also, it just gives him a lot more options, because Kirby, again, has so many jumps, he can just use it off stage, get a Black Mage, and then just hammer, because he can charge it for so freaking long and just avoid the enemy. Like, you could probably, I haven't really done this before, but you could probably just hang around near the ledge, and if they come towards you, you could stop charging it, jump off, jump back on stage once you've gotten them off your butt, then keep charging. I don't really know. I haven't played around with this one too much, but I just know it's still a really solid move, and Kirby's just really good. Now, with Sora, Sora's neutral B is he throws his little Keyblade thing, and he just and does the spinny thing. Kirby gets a lot of good setups off of it because it sends you back towards you, so you can, like, Keyblade in a hammer, Keyblade in a back air, up air, whatever you want. You can Keyblade down throw, or no, Keyblade down air, down throw, and then up air chains, and you can just do all this stuff. So it's a good way to make the opponent come into you. And, you can probably get a lot, just get any aerial off of it, really. Oh, boy. Now, remember what I said before about Kirby having a really good projectile? Well, here's the thing about Mega Man. When he's charging his Buster Blade shot blah doodad thingy, he can jump around with it. Cool. Well, Mega Man can jump. Cool. He can't jump in midair. Kirby... Now, here's another interesting one. Pac-Man. All the advantages that Pac-Man gets off of his fruit, which is really just the lemon custard thingy in the key, Kirby does really well, too. Because Kirby can charge off stage if he really needs to, or even under the stage, heck, with that frickin' recovery. Look at that man go. But using Lemon can help stun and maybe set up into a hammer or a back air. And Key is just a really strong projectile. And again, what have I said about giving Kirby a really strong projectile? Lloyd's neutral special, again, what have I said about Kirby's projectile game? Now, Bomberman, not so much better. He's probably one of the few that isn't as good as the original. Instead of being able to charge and then using your down B to blow up all the bombs, you just kind of throw this little tiny bomb. It has a lot of startup and stuff, but if used off stage, you can really trick up a Bomberman's recovery, and then, of course, because his recovery is so linear, you can just go in for a hammer, which you don't really need the bombs for. I feel like the bombs are just for more style or maybe shield pressure if you really need it. But it's really, really good. Now, okay, no, I'm joking. So they fixed the Ichigo thing, so now Kirby's got the normal Buster Blade Beam thing. But just Kirby just does kind of well with it, because again, what have I said about Kirby's projectile game, and he can charge it for really long. It's not the greatest as it, well, used to be. But still, it's not bad. But it's not the greatest thing ever. Why would you want this neutral? Why would you want... So this is probably one of Kirby's best tools in the Luffy fight, because Kirby, again, his down throw is an amazing move. And being able to let Kirby grab you from a lot further away is a really, really strong thing. I don't even know why they allowed this to happen. It is ridiculous. Why would you want this new... Why would you want... Okay, I'm kidding. Stop. Kamehameha has never been a great projectile, in my opinion. Just because of how it works, you have to charge it up for so long. You can't even change direction with it anymore. But again, Kirby can kind of charge it really, really far off stage if he needs to, but it's not the greatest thing ever. Now, I feel like Kirby and Sandbag, well... Sandbag's neutral B isn't the greatest because you either get bombs or you don't. And it's the same thing with Kirby. You either get bombs or you don't. But it's good for disrupting a Sandbag's options because he doesn't really have that many options. I mean, what can he do? But Kirby can use his little pellet thingy, majig, whatever. I don't know. He can just hold on to him for a while, and hopefully if it's a bomb, you know, kind of kill the guy. But otherwise, Kirby's just really good at being able to disrupt this thing and then getting in with up airs and stuff. Because I feel like this is actually one of Kirby's trouble matchups is Sandbag. But yeah, you know, the little pellet thingies are really good. So yeah, that's it. We've gone over every character. And as you can see, and more often than not, the original special isn't as good as Kirby's. Now, I don't really understand why it's like that, but, you know, it's just Kirby just does really good with Inhale, and I'm just really glad they buffed the guy, because he used to be, like, the worst character in the game. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up in this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys... Oh. Oh, my.